8 years ago, I destroyed the heart of the only man I ever truly loved. I watched him leave my life believing I had betrayed him, and I let him carry that pain across the ocean because I thought it was the only way I could love him. Now, after 8 years away, Ethan Walker was finally returning home. He was coming back with the woman he planned to marry, ready to introduce her to his family and begin the next chapter of his life. And on that exact day, I received the news I had secretly feared for years. The doctors had run out of options. My cancer had spread too far. There were no more treatments, no more experimental therapies, no miracle waiting around the corner. They sent me home with a quiet apology and a sentence that changed everything. I had only a little time left. My mother helped me leave the hospital that afternoon. I was weaker than I wanted to admit, and my legs barely supported me anymore. She pushed my wheelchair through the front entrance, and that was when I saw him. Ethan. The boy who had once promised me forever. The man who now looked at me like I was a stranger. His eyes moved from my wheelchair to my pale face, and a faint, bitter smile appeared on his lips. 8 years, he said coldly. And this is what happened to you? His voice carried no warmth. You can't even walk now? Every word cut deeper than I wanted to show. I lowered my eyes and pulled the sleeve of my coat farther down, hiding the marks left behind from years of treatments, countless blood tests, and the medical lines that had become part of my life. It's nothing, I whispered. I just injured my leg. It will heal. Ethan let out a quiet laugh. Of course. Always something. Then he looked away and said, I'm getting married soon. You should come. Maybe you can be my fiancé's bridesmaid. I smiled because I had spent 8 years learning how to hide pain behind my expression. No, thank you, I replied softly. I'm actually leaving soon. Somewhere far away. I reached over and touched my mother's hand, silently asking her to take me home. I didn't want Ethan to see how badly his words affected me. I didn't want him to know that even after all these years, one sentence from him could still break me. I thought that would be the end of our meeting. I was wrong. After my mother helped me into bed, Ethan's mother, Margaret Walker, came to my house. She stood outside my bedroom door for a long time before speaking. She looked older than I remembered. Her face carried guilt, but not enough guilt to stop her from coming. Lily, she finally said, barely able to meet my eyes. I know I have no right to ask you this again, but I need your help. Again. That single word brought back memories I had spent years trying to bury. 8 years earlier, when I first learned I had cancer, Margaret had come to my hospital room. I had just received the diagnosis. I was 18 years old, terrified, and completely lost. I remember crying so hard I couldn't breathe. I remember thinking my life had ended before it had even begun. Then Margaret appeared. She grabbed my hands and begged me not to tell Ethan. Please, Lily, she cried. Ethan has finally been accepted into a medical program overseas. This opportunity could change his entire future. If he knows you're sick, he will stay. You know him. He will throw everything away for you. At that time, Ethan and I had been together almost our entire lives. We grew up on the same street, went to the same schools, shared every important memory. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my best friend. My home. Margaret knew that. That's why she said the words that changed my life forever. Please let him go. Break his heart before he finds out. Make him hate you if you have to. Hate is easier than watching the person you love die. Then she told me she had already arranged everything. There was a man named Ryan who would help me. All I had to do was let Ethan see us together. Let him believe I had cheated. Let him walk away. I was young, sick, and terrified. I thought she was right. I thought sacrificing my own happiness was the greatest proof of love I could give him. So I did it. The day after my diagnosis, instead of planning treatment, instead of thinking about survival, I planned how to destroy the relationship I treasured most. I forced Ethan to see something that wasn't real. I made him believe I had replaced him. I watched the person I loved more than anything look at me with heartbreak and disgust. And then I watched him leave the country. Margaret looked at me now, 8 years later, and I knew she had come for the same reason. "Lily," she said quietly, "Ethan has built a good life. His fiancée, Sophia, has been with him throughout his studies overseas. They are happy. They are perfect together. I don't want to ruin that." She swallowed hard. "He loved you once. More than anyone. If he learns the truth, I'm afraid he will throw away everything again." I stared at her. The woman who had once asked me to break my own heart was now asking me to disappear completely. "So please," she continued, "stay away from him. You don't have much time left anyway. You should rest. Someone in your condition shouldn't keep appearing in his life." My mother's anger exploded before I could respond. She grabbed the box of tissues beside my bed and threw it onto the mattress. "How can you say that?" she shouted. "After everything my daughter has been through?" I quickly reached for her hand. "Mom, please." It took several moments before she calmed down. Then I looked back at Margaret. "I promise I won't tell Ethan what happened 8 years ago," I said quietly. "But I can't promise I won't see him. Because that was the one promise I could not make." For 8 years, through surgeries, chemotherapy, hospital rooms, and nights when I wasn't sure I would wake up the next morning, I had missed him. When the pain became unbearable, I would hold on to an old photograph of Ethan and me. We were 17 years old, standing under winter lights, laughing at something nobody else understood. That picture became my reason to continue. My mother saw me lose strength countless times. She watched doctors rush me into emergency rooms. She signed papers with shaking hands before dangerous surgeries. And every time I came close to giving up, she reminded me of the promise I had made. "You said you would survive," she would cry. "You said you would get better and find Ethan yourself. You still have something to tell him." Maybe I never truly believed I would recover. But I believed I needed to see him one more time. That was why, when I heard he had returned, I forced myself out of the hospital. I knew I wasn't going home to heal. I was going home because my time was running out. I never expected Ethan to come to my house after Margaret left. When I woke from a short, exhausted sleep, I heard his voice outside my bedroom. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. 8 years ago, Ethan had hated me more than anyone else in the world. After the fake betrayal, he stood outside my house for 3 days waiting for me to explain. He wanted answers. He wanted to know how I could destroy everything we had. When I looked him in the eyes and lied that I never loved him, something inside him broke. He punched the glass window beside the stairs, not because he wanted to hurt me, but because he couldn't control the pain. After that day, he changed completely. He avoided me whenever we crossed paths. He stopped visiting the places we used to love. Even hearing my name was enough to darken his expression. When he left for the airport, I stood outside in the rain just to see him one last time. He didn't say goodbye. He threw the matching bracelet we had bought together onto the ground and walked away without looking back. I thought that was the last time I would ever see him. But 8 years later, he was standing outside my door again. And when I looked through the small opening, I saw why. Ethan was holding Sophia's hand. "Mrs. Carter," he said to my mother, his voice calm and distant, "are you still angry about what happened years ago? Is that why you don't want Lily helping us with the wedding?" He paused. "I don't have feelings for Lily anymore. That part of my life is over. We grew up together. Even if we couldn't be together, we can still be friends." His fiancée smiled gently beside him. "I know everything about Lily and Ethan's past," she said. "Yes, she hurt him, but people make mistakes when they're young. I'm grateful she let him go, because otherwise I never would have met him." Her words sounded kind. But somehow, every sentence felt like a carefully hidden knife. We actually wanted Lily's help planning the wedding, Sophia continued. We've been away for so long that we don't know the local details anymore. And honestly, she glanced around the room and smiled. I think our parents' ideas might be a little old-fashioned. I lowered my eyes. 8 years ago, when I first learned I might die, all I wanted was for Ethan to forget me and move forward. But hearing him talk about me like I was just a painful memory from another life still hurt. He had told Sophia everything. He had carried the story of my betrayal with him all these years. And now, he truly believed that was the whole truth. My mother couldn't stand it anymore. Her eyes turned red. You and your mother are exactly alike, she said angrily. Both of you destroyed my daughter's life and still act like you did nothing wrong. My heart tightened. I knew she was about to say everything. The truth she had protected for 8 years. But I couldn't let her. Mom, I whispered. Help me into my wheelchair. I'll talk to Ethan myself. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Lily. I held her hand. Please. Let me have this one thing. Slowly, she helped me get ready. She fixed my hair, put on my lipstick, and helped me into my coat. When we entered the room, Ethan frowned. What's wrong with you? He asked. You always needed everyone taking care of you when we were younger. Even now, you still make your mother do everything. I looked at him and smiled sadly. The doctor said my injury needs time to recover. He didn't know the truth. He didn't know the reason I couldn't stand anymore wasn't a broken bone. It was because my body had been fighting a battle for 8 years. Sophia smiled softly. Lily, don't mind him. Ethan is just too direct after living overseas for so long. I looked away. Once, Ethan had never been cold to me. Once, he was the person who protected me from every hurt in the world. But that person felt impossibly far away now. I took a breath and said, if you still want my help with the wedding, I'll do it. Sophia smiled immediately. Of course. We would really appreciate it. And that was how I stepped back into Ethan's life. Not as the woman he loved. Not as his future. Only as someone helping him build a wedding with another woman. But I accepted. Because even if I only had a little time left, I wanted to be close to him. Just a little longer. The next morning, Ethan called me. His voice sounded unfamiliar, yet painfully familiar at the same time. It had been 8 years since I heard him speak to me without anger. 8 years since I had been the person on the other end of his phone calls, the person he wanted to tell everything to. Be ready at 10, he said. We'll go meet the wedding planner together. I held the phone tightly, trying to control the emotions rising in my chest. Part of me wanted to hear his voice forever. Another part of me was afraid because I knew this was not the same Ethan I remembered. This Ethan belonged to someone else. Before I could answer, I heard a woman's voice in the background. Ethan, can you help me dry my hair? My heart froze for a second. Then I forced myself back to reality. Okay, I whispered. I'll be there. The call ended immediately. I stared at the dark screen for a long time. Then the tears came. I knew he had moved on. I knew he had every right to. I had been the one who pushed him away. But knowing something and feeling it were two completely different things. The next morning, I asked my mother to take me downstairs at 9:30. Ethan said he would come at 10. I wanted to look ready. I wanted to prove that I wasn't as weak as my body had become. But 10 o'clock passed. Then 10:30. Then 11. I sat in my wheelchair outside the building, watching strangers walk by while my mother tried to convince me to go back upstairs. Lily, enough. You don't have to wait for him. I shook my head. I want to go. She looked at me with sadness in her eyes. She knew exactly why. This might be one of my last chances to spend time with him. At 1 o'clock, my phone finally rang. Ethan's name appeared on the screen. "We're here," he said simply. No apology. No explanation. Just 2 words. My mother closed her eyes, clearly angry, but I gently touched her arm. "Mom, please." She swallowed her anger and helped me into the car. When I arrived, Sophia immediately smiled at me. "I'm sorry, Lily. Ethan got distracted last night. We slept late this morning." Her tone was sweet, almost innocent. My fingers tightened around my coat. Ethan folded my wheelchair and placed it in the trunk. He heard Sophia's explanation and frowned slightly. "Why are you explaining yourself to her?" he asked. I turned my head toward the window and pretended not to hear. My mother waved goodbye as the car pulled away. Ethan drove. I expected him to be cold, but I didn't expect the pain of seeing how different he had become. 8 years ago, Ethan knew every little thing about me. He knew I got carsick easily. He knew I hated sudden stops. Whenever we went somewhere, he drove slowly and carefully, always asking if I felt okay. But now, he drove like I was just another passenger. The car moved too quickly. Every turn came too suddenly. I gripped the side of my seat silently. Then he suddenly pressed the brakes. My body moved forward violently. Pain shot through me, and I couldn't stop the small sound that escaped my lips. Ethan looked at me through the mirror. His expression was cold. "Lily, don't tell me you still expect me to take care of you like I did 8 years ago." I lowered my eyes. "No," I said softly. "You should take care of Sophia now. She's the person beside you." A bitter smile appeared on his face. "At least you understand that." He stepped on the gas again. I turned toward the window and hid my tears. The strange thing was, even his cruelty felt better than his indifference. Hate meant he still remembered me. Hate meant I had once mattered enough to hurt him. When we arrived at the restaurant, Ethan helped lift me from the car. For 1 second, everything disappeared. His arms around me. His familiar scent. The warmth I had missed for 8 years. My fingers almost reached for his shoulder out of instinct. But I stopped myself. That was no longer my place. The moment he placed me in my wheelchair, he immediately turned away. "Sophia, do you have the wipes?" he asked. Then he cleaned his hands carefully. I froze. Sophia noticed and gave me an apologetic smile. "Don't take it personally. Ethan has always been very particular. He doesn't like physical contact with other women." I lowered my head and pretended I hadn't heard. Once, I was the only person he wanted to touch. Once, he would hold my hand for hours and tell me he never wanted to let go. Now, even accidentally carrying me made him uncomfortable. We entered the restaurant together. Ethan and Sophia walked behind me, holding hands. I tried not to look. I tried not to remember how that used to be us. After sitting down, Ethan picked up the menu. He ordered several spicy dishes without hesitation. I quietly listened. He still remembered what Sophia liked. Of course he did. He had spent 8 years building a life with her. I had only been a memory. I couldn't eat spicy food. Ethan knew that better than anyone. But he had forgotten. Or maybe he didn't care anymore. I asked the waiter for a simple vegetable soup. Suddenly, Ethan looked up. "That's all you're eating?" His voice became annoyed. "You're already too thin. Why are you still trying to lose weight?" For one painful second, my heart reacted before my mind did. Because that sounded like the old Ethan. The Ethan who worried when I skipped meals. The Ethan who used to bring food to school because he knew I forgot lunch. Then reality returned. I smiled faintly. Ryan liked me thinner. The moment I said that name, Ethan's expression changed. "Ryan." The person who helped me create the illusion that I betrayed him 8 years ago. The person he believed had taken me away from him. His eyes became cold instantly. Sophia quickly stepped in. Lily, don't misunderstand. Ethan is just concerned because he's a doctor. He always gets upset when people don't take care of their health. I smiled. Of course. He's always been that kind of person. But inside, something broke quietly. I had spent 8 years learning how to smile through pain. Cancer teaches you many things. It teaches you patience. It teaches you silence. It teaches you how to look normal when your body is falling apart. I pulled my sleeves down before leaving home that day. The marks on my hands were hidden beneath the fabric. The scars from countless treatments. The evidence of every time my body almost gave up. My mother had secretly repaired every coat I owned, adding soft material inside the sleeves so the fabric wouldn't hurt my skin. She did little things like that all the time. Things nobody noticed. Things only someone who loved me completely would do. The weeks after that became a strange kind of punishment I chose willingly. I helped Ethan and Sophia prepare their wedding. I met with planners. I visited venues. I helped choose flowers, decorations, and music. I sat in my wheelchair while discussing details for a wedding that would never be mine. The wedding planner, Claire Bennett, had no idea who I really was. To her, I was simply an old friend helping the couple organize everything after years abroad. Sophia was always polite. Almost too polite. She asked for my opinions constantly. What do you think, Lily? Which flowers do you prefer? Which style feels more romantic? Anyone watching would think she admired me. But I understood her better than anyone. Her kindness was a reminder. She was not afraid of me because she knew she had already won. She could afford to be generous because she had Ethan's heart. Ethan remained distant. He spoke only when necessary. He discussed schedules, contracts, and decisions with the calm efficiency of a doctor. There was no anger anymore. No passion. Just emptiness. And somehow, that hurt more. The old Ethan would have hated me. The old Ethan would have argued, questioned, demanded answers. This Ethan had already buried me in his past. One afternoon, while choosing music for the reception, the planner played a song. The moment it began, Ethan froze. I knew that song immediately. It was from the Winter Festival when we were 16. The night we danced together under the lights and laughed until we couldn't breathe. His grandmother had looked at us and joked that we moved like two confused penguins. We laughed for the rest of the night because of that. For a few seconds, Ethan wasn't the cold man sitting across from me. He was the boy who held my hand under the snow and promised we would always be together. Then Sophia spoke. I think something more modern would fit better. Ethan blinked and looked away. You're right. The moment disappeared. I lowered my eyes and reminded myself of the truth. Memories were not promises. Love from the past did not belong to the present. That night, my mother found me staring at the ceiling. You should tell him, she whispered. I knew what she meant. No. Lily. I want these last days to be peaceful. She sat beside me. Your father would never forgive me for letting you do this. I smiled weakly. Dad would probably break down Ethan's door himself. She almost laughed. Almost. Then she held my hand carefully. I'm scared. I looked at her. I know. I don't want to lose you. My throat tightened. Mom. She shook her head. I spent 8 years watching you fight. I just don't know how much longer you can keep pretending you're okay. I looked away because she was right. I wasn't okay. But I still had something I wanted. I wanted Ethan to know the truth someday. I wanted him to understand that I never stopped loving him. I just didn't know if I would still be alive when that day came. And then Sophia did something that finally changed everything. It happened during a wedding venue inspection. I was already exhausted. My body had been getting weaker, but I refused to stop. My medication was inside my bag. Around noon, the pain started becoming unbearable. I asked Sophia for my bag because she had offered to carry it earlier. "Just a minute," she said while speaking with the planner. That minute became 10. I sat there silently, waiting. I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want Ethan to see me as someone helpless. When Sophia finally handed me the bag, I opened the pocket where I always kept my medicine. It was empty. I searched again. Nothing. I looked up at her. She was watching me calmly. Almost expectantly. "My medication is missing," I said quietly. Sophia tilted her head. "Are you sure you brought it?" I stared at her. "It was in the front pocket." She smiled gently. "Maybe you forgot." Then she looked toward Ethan. "Actually, Lily, I've been worried about you lately." Her voice became softer. Concerned. Perfectly controlled. Sometimes when people are struggling emotionally, they start depending on others more than necessary. My hands went cold. I knew exactly what she was trying to say. She was suggesting I was pretending. That I was using my illness to keep Ethan's attention. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt something stronger than sadness. I felt the truth finally pushing its way out. Sophia looked at me with the same gentle expression she always wore, the expression of someone who wanted everyone around her to believe she was kind. "Lily," she continued softly, "I don't mean anything bad by this. I just think sometimes people who go through difficult experiences start believing they need more help than they actually do. Maybe you should try pushing yourself a little more." The room became painfully quiet. I looked at her and realized something. She had never truly been worried about me. She had been watching me. Measuring me. Waiting to see how much she could say while still appearing innocent. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked calmly. Sophia sighed as if she was struggling to say something unpleasant. "I'm just saying that maybe your condition isn't as severe as everyone thinks. Maybe you have become used to being taken care of." Before I could respond, she stood up and smiled. "Why don't we try? Just stand for a moment. I'll help you." My fingers tightened around the armrest of my wheelchair. "Sophia. I'm only trying to help," she interrupted. "You might surprise yourself." My mother, who had been standing behind me, suddenly stepped forward. Her voice was colder than I had ever heard it. "She cannot stand." Everyone turned toward her. "Mrs. Winters, I think you misunderstood me," Sophia said quickly. "No." My mother's eyes were filled with anger. "You are the one who doesn't understand. My daughter has not been able to stand without support for months. Not because she is weak. Not because she wants attention. Not because she is trying to hold on to anyone." Her voice trembled. "Her body is failing. That is the only reason." Ethan stood nearby, silent. I looked at him, but his expression was impossible to read. For a moment, I wanted him to say something. I wanted him to defend me. I wanted the old Ethan to appear and tell everyone that he knew me better than this. But he didn't. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he didn't know what to believe. Maybe 8 years of anger had built a wall too high for him to see through. I reached into my bag and found the small photograph I always carried. Ethan and me at 17. The Winter Festival. 2 teenagers who believed love could protect them from anything. I held it for a few seconds, then quietly put it into my coat pocket. I realized I didn't need to look at it anymore. I had carried that memory long enough. "I want to go home," I said. My mother immediately moved behind my wheelchair. I didn't look at Ethan as we left. I heard him say my name softly. Lily. But I kept moving. For the first time in 8 years, I didn't turn around. 2 days later, my body finally gave up. My mother was helping me walk to the bathroom early in the morning when my leg suddenly weakened. I remember the shock on her face. I remember the floor beneath me. I remember her calling my name again and again. Then everything disappeared. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the hospital. The same white walls. The same quiet machines. The same smell I had known for years. My mother sat beside my bed. Her eyes were red from crying, but when she saw me awake, relief replaced the fear. "Mom," I whispered. She immediately held my hand. "I'm here." "Did you sleep?" I asked. She looked away. "Don't worry about me." I smiled weakly. That was always her answer. She would break herself into pieces before admitting she was tired. Outside my room, the hospital continued moving. Doctors walked through the halls. Nurses checked patients. People fought battles nobody else could see. I closed my eyes and wondered how much longer I could keep fighting. I wanted more time. Even after everything, I still wanted more time. That was the cruelest thing about life. No matter how prepared you think you are, you always want one more day. One more conversation. One more chance. I didn't know what happened outside my room while I slept. I only learned later from my mother. Ethan had come to the hospital after she called for help. At first, he was only worried because he heard I had collapsed. He stood at the nurse station asking about my condition. Because he was a doctor, he understood medical terms better than most people. And then he saw my name on a document. He wasn't supposed to look. It was not his place. But something inside him pushed him forward. He read enough to understand. The diagnosis. The treatments. The surgeries. The truth he had never known. Then he found my mother. She didn't hide anything anymore. 8 years of silence had finally become impossible to maintain. She told him everything. She told him about the day I was diagnosed. About Margaret coming to my hospital room. About how she begged an 18-year-old girl with cancer to destroy the person she loved most. She told him about the fake betrayal. About Ryan. About the tears I cried after Ethan left. She told him about every surgery. Every night I almost died. Every time I held that old photograph and refused to give up because I still believed I needed to explain the truth to him someday. She kept saying she had to get better, my mother told him. She said she couldn't leave without telling you what really happened. Ethan listened to every word. And then he came into my room. I was awake when he entered. I knew immediately something had changed. He looked different. Not angry. Not cold. Just broken. Like someone had taken everything he believed for 8 years and shattered it in front of him. He sat beside my bed without speaking. For a long time, he couldn't even look at me. Then his eyes moved to my hands. I had stopped hiding them. There was no reason anymore. The scars. The bruises. The evidence of every treatment. Everything was visible. "Lily." His voice was barely a whisper. "You know now," I said. He nodded slowly. "I read your medical records." A pause. "Your mother told me everything." I looked at the ceiling. I asked her not to. Ethan swallowed hard. She had every right. Silence filled the room. Then I said quietly, "I wasn't going to tell you." He looked at me. "Why?" I smiled sadly. "Because it doesn't change anything. You have a life now. You have someone you love. Knowing the truth doesn't give us back 8 years." His expression changed. Pain crossed his face. "I hated you." His voice cracked. I hated you for 8 years. I closed my eyes. I know. I stood outside your house. I waited for you to explain. I thought. He stopped. His hands trembled. I thought you chose someone else. I looked at him. You believed what I wanted you to believe. But you were dying. His voice broke completely. And I spent all those years blaming you. I didn't answer. Because what could I say? The past was already written. No apology could erase it. No explanation could return the years we lost. Ethan leaned forward, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. I had never seen him cry like that. Not even when we were young. This was the man who always seemed strong. The doctor who saved other people's lives. The person everyone trusted. But now he was just Ethan. The boy who loved me and lost me. I should have known something was wrong, he whispered. No, I said softly. You couldn't have. I believed the worst about you. Because I made sure you did. He looked at me. Why didn't you tell me? I stared at my hands. Because I didn't know if I was going to survive. My voice became quieter. I thought if I told you, you would stay. I knew you. You would have abandoned everything. Your future. Your dreams. Your chance to become a doctor. You would have chosen me. Yes, he said immediately. I would have. I smiled sadly. Exactly. That's why I couldn't tell you. Ethan looked away. You had no right to make that decision for me. I knew he was right. I know. For the first time, I admitted it. I know I should have trusted you. I know I should have let you choose. But I was 18. I was scared. I had just learned I might die, and your mother was crying in front of me. I thought I was protecting you. Ethan stood and walked toward the window. His back was facing me. My mother knew. His voice was empty. All these years, she knew. Yes. She watched you suffer and let me hate you. I looked down. She thought she was protecting you too. Ethan turned around. No. She was protecting the future she wanted for me. I didn't argue. Because maybe he was right. After a long silence, he returned to my bedside. Can we still do something? He asked suddenly. What? Find another doctor. Another treatment. Another hospital. There are trials. I know people. I can contact specialists anywhere. I watched him become the doctor again. Searching for an answer. Fighting against impossible odds. Ethan. There has to be something. His voice was desperate. There is always something. I reached out and touched his hand. I've tried everything. He froze. Every treatment. Every option. Every chance doctors gave me. I looked at him gently. There isn't another miracle waiting for me. His eyes turned red. The doctor inside him understood. But the man who loved me refused to accept it. Then what am I supposed to do? He whispered. I didn't know how to answer. Because for 8 years, I dreamed of this moment. I dreamed of him knowing the truth. I dreamed of him coming back to me. But I never imagined I would have so little time left when he did. After a while, Ethan finally spoke. I'm staying. I looked at him. Your wedding. There is no wedding. His answer was immediate. Sophia and I are finished. My heart tightened. Ethan. No, he said quietly. That ended before I read your records. I just didn't understand why. He looked at me. I spent years convincing myself I was over you. I convinced everyone else too. Tears filled his eyes. But I wasn't. I didn't know what to say. I had waited 8 years to hear those words. But hearing them now felt beautiful and painful at the same time. Because love had finally returned to me when there was almost no time left to hold it. Ethan, I whispered, I don't want my remaining days to be filled with guilt or apologies. He looked at me. I don't blame you. I squeezed his hand. I just want peace. He held my hand tighter. Then let me give you that. And for the first time in 8 years, Ethan stayed. Not because he felt responsible. Not because he was trying to fix the past. He stayed because he finally knew the truth. And because even after everything, some part of him had never stopped loving me. The days that followed were the strangest and most precious days of my life. For 8 years, I had imagined what would happen if Ethan ever learned the truth. I imagined anger. I imagined tears. I imagined him finally understanding why I did what I did. But I never imagined this. I never imagined him sitting beside my hospital bed, holding my hand like he used to, as if the 8 years between us had disappeared. Except they hadn't. They were still there. Every lost birthday. Every missed holiday. Every moment we could have shared but never did. The past could not be erased. All we could do was accept that we had found each other again too late. Ethan stayed at the hospital every day. He talked to my doctors, studied my medical history, and asked questions even though he already knew the answers. He was a doctor. He understood my condition better than anyone. But he was also the boy who once believed love could solve anything. And maybe a small part of him still hoped it could. I found a specialist in another country, he told me one afternoon. They have new trials. We can try. I smiled softly. Ethan. He stopped. He knew that tone. The same tone I used when we were young and he was being stubborn. Please don't look at me like a doctor trying to save a patient, I whispered. Look at me as Ethan. His eyes lowered. After a moment, he sat beside me. I don't know how to do that anymore. My heart hurt hearing those words. You always knew how. He looked at me. Before. I smiled. Before, you weren't afraid of losing me. He became silent. Because that was the truth. 8 years ago, he thought I had chosen someone else. Now he knew the truth. Now he knew that the person he had spent years hating had been fighting every day just to stay alive long enough to see him again. That knowledge changed everything. Margaret came to the hospital several days later. I heard her voice outside the room. She was crying. Ethan spoke to her quietly in the hallway. I couldn't hear everything they said, but I knew enough. 8 years of secrets had finally collapsed. When Ethan returned, his face was calm, but his eyes were tired. She went home, he said. I didn't ask what happened. Some things belonged only to them. Some wounds needed to be faced privately. Are you angry with her? I asked. Ethan sat down. I don't know. He looked at the floor. I spent 8 years being angry with you. I don't know what to do with all this anger now. I understood. Anger had been the thing that kept him connected to me. When it disappeared, he was left with grief. You don't have to forgive her today, I said. Or tomorrow. He looked at me. How can you still defend her? I shook my head. I'm not defending what she did. She hurt both of us. But I don't want the rest of your life to be controlled by what happened 8 years ago. Ethan was quiet. Then he nodded slowly. You really haven't changed. I smiled. Neither have you. For the first time, I saw a small smile appear on his face. A real one. The kind I remembered. On the 6th day after I returned to the hospital, I asked Ethan about his life overseas. Not about us. Not about cancer. Not about the years we lost. I wanted to know about him. Did you ever learn how to cook? I asked. He laughed quietly. Barely. I knew it. I can make 3 things. 3? Pasta, eggs, and coffee. I smiled. So basically, you survived because hospitals have cafeterias. Exactly. And for a few hours, we talked like we were young again. He told me about his work. The patients he helped. The places he visited. The things he learned. I listened carefully because I wanted to remember everything. His voice. His expressions. The way he smiled when he talked about something he cared about. It was the Ethan I had missed. The Ethan I had carried in my heart for 8 years. That evening, I asked him, "Do you remember the winter festival?" He looked at me immediately. "The one where your grandmother called us drunk penguins?" I laughed softly. Yes. A small smile appeared on his face. I hated that nickname. No, you didn't. No, I didn't. We sat in silence afterward. A peaceful silence. The kind we used to share when we didn't need words. "Ethan," I said quietly. "When I'm gone, promise me something." His expression changed immediately. "Don't say that. Listen to me." He looked away. "I want you to keep living." His jaw tightened. "Lily. No. I mean it. Don't let my death become the reason you stop. You became a doctor because you wanted to help people. That matters. The people you save matter." He looked at our hands. "How can you ask me to just continue?" My eyes filled with tears. "Because that's why I let you go." He looked at me. "What?" 8 years ago, I wanted you to have a future. I wanted you to achieve everything you dreamed of. I didn't destroy our love because I stopped loving you. I destroyed it because I loved you too much." Ethan closed his eyes. Tears slipped down his face. "I hate that you still think that was the right choice." I smiled sadly. "I know it wasn't. But it was the choice I made." He held my hand tightly. "I'll try. That's all I need." The final weeks of my life were not perfect. There were painful days. There were nights when I couldn't sleep. There were moments when my body reminded me that time was running out. But there was also happiness. Real happiness. My mother sat beside me every day. Ethan sat on the other side. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting alone. Ethan learned all the little things that made me comfortable. The right position for my pillow. How I liked my tea. When I needed silence and when I needed someone to talk. He never did it because he felt guilty. He did it because he loved me. And that was enough. One morning, I woke up and saw Ethan sleeping in the chair beside my bed. His head was tilted back, and the old photograph of us was still in his coat pocket. I watched him for a long time. 8 years. I spent 8 years loving someone from hospital rooms and silent nights. I spent 8 years believing I only needed one chance to explain myself. And now I had it. I had heard him say my name without anger. I had seen him smile at me again. I had felt his hand holding mine. Maybe life had been cruel. Maybe we deserved more time. Maybe we deserved ordinary days together. But sometimes, life doesn't give you everything you want. Sometimes, it gives you exactly enough. I closed my eyes that morning without fear. I was not alone. I was loved. After I was gone, Ethan stayed with my mother for several days. He helped with everything. The funeral. The arrangements. The things nobody wants to think about. My mother eventually gave him a small envelope. Inside was the ring we had bought when we were 17. The matching one. The one he thought was lost forever. Along with it was a note written in my handwriting. "I kept it all these years. I think you should have it now." Ethan wore the ring on a chain around his neck for the rest of his life. He did not return overseas immediately. He needed time. He needed to learn how to live with the truth. Margaret eventually apologized. Not once. Not enough. Some things cannot be repaired completely. But Ethan remembered my words. He remembered that I didn't want my life to become the reason he stopped living. So eventually, he returned to his work. He continued treating cancer patients. And everyone noticed something different about him. His colleagues said he had become more patient. More understanding. More gentle with people who were afraid. They didn't know why. They didn't know that he had once sat beside a hospital bed and watched the person he loved fight a battle she never wanted him to see. Every winter, Ethan visited my grave. He brought white flowers. The same kind I once pointed out from a car window when we were teenagers. I told him they were beautiful because they survived the cold. They were stubborn enough to bloom when everything else was frozen. He would stand there quietly for a long time. Sometimes he talked. Sometimes he didn't. He didn't need words anymore. He knew what I would say. Keep going. Live well. Love the life you have. The last entry in my journal was found by my mother after my death. It wasn't about my illness. It wasn't about treatments or pain. It was only one sentence. He came back. That was all I ever wanted. And maybe that was the cruelest part of our story. We didn't lose each other because we stopped loving each other. We lost each other because we loved each other in the wrong way. I tried to protect him by leaving. He tried to protect himself by forgetting. 8 years disappeared between us. 8 years that we could never get back. But in the end, when everything was finally revealed, we found each other again. Not for years. Not for decades. Just for a little while. But it was real. And for me, it was enough. Ethan spent the rest of his life learning how to accept that. He carried the pain. He carried the memories. He carried the love we never had enough time to finish. But he also carried my last gift to him. A reason to continue. Because I didn't survive 8 years just to see him broken. I survived 8 years to remind him that love is not always about staying. Sometimes, love means letting someone go so they can become who they were meant to be. And every January, when white flowers appeared beneath the winter sky, Ethan remembered the girl who loved him enough to break her own heart. The girl who waited 8 years just to tell him the truth. The girl who proved that sometimes the greatest love stories are not the ones where people get everything they want. Sometimes, they are the ones where, even at the very end, two people finally find their way back to each other.